Hi, welcome back. In this video, we are going to talk about command button tag and its attributes. Command button renders an HTML input tag of the type submit or reset depending on the type attribute. By default, it is submit. Use the ID attribute to provide a unique ID. Use the rendered attribute to make the button visible. If the rendered attribute is true, the button is visible. If it is false, it is invisible. Use the disabled attribute to make the button disabled. Use the image attribute to provide an image. Use the title attribute to provide a tooltip text. Use the type attribute to make it a submit or reset button. Use the value attribute to display the text on the button. Use the action attribute to navigate to a different page. There are other attributes which we will discuss at a later stage. Let's use the ID attribute. Here, I've given an ID. Let's give it a once more login button. There are certain advantages of using the ID on a command button. We will see what these advantages are at a later stage. But at this point of time, we should know that we can give an ID to the command button. And it's always a good practice to give IDs to all the components that are shown on the XHTML page. Let's run this. There won't be anything that you can see. It's running. It's deployed. You can see it over there. So there's basically nothing to see on the screen. Now let's use the rendered attribute. Say you don't want to display this login button. So what can I do? Go back to the code and then say rendered attribute is equal to false, so that is it not shown. So I'll say run again. See that the button is not visible. So let's put it back. I'll put it as true, rendered true. Let's run it. It's made visible again. So by default, rendered is true. So if I don't mention anything for the rendered attribute, then you would see that the button is displayed. So you can make a component visible or invisible by providing the rendered attribute as true or false. Sometimes you want the user to see the button on the screen, but then you want it to be disabled and enable it only on a certain action that he takes. So let's see how we can do this. Let's go back to the XHTML. There is an attribute called disabled. If I make this as true, run it, you'd see that this button is grayed out. You can't click it, right? So this is a disabled button. Now, let's see as to how we can enable it. Go to the code, make it as false. Disabled is false. Now you can see that this is clickable, right? So disabled true makes the button disabled. Disabled false makes the button enabled. By default, the button is enabled. Now let's use the image attribute. Put it as image. We have to put an image before we put the attribute image. So we will see which image we are going to put. So let's go here. For that, we'll try copying some image. There are many PNGs over here. I will copy this save PNG. Copy that, and then I'll go back to here, and then I'm going to put this image in the web pages folder. So I'll say copy, paste. This is the paste. Okay. Now I want to show this image here. I'll put image as save.png, correct? So let's build this and see how it behaves. Run. Now you would see that there is a small image over here. So the button has been converted to image. Yes. So when you use the image attribute, it becomes an image. The button becomes an image. So input of the type image, right? So now let's have a look at the title attribute. Let's go back to the XHTML. Let's remove this image, right? I'm removing this. So I'll put a title over here. The title is click on the login button. Sign in, right? Now let me run this. So click on the login button to sign in. This is tooltip text that is shown. So whatever we give in the title attribute, that is shown as a tooltip text. So title shows a tooltip text. Now let's have a look at the type attribute. I'll remove this tooltip text, this title. I'll remove. Normally, a command button renders an HTML submit button. But when you mention that the type is reset, it renders a reset button. So let's see whether it does. Go there. So I will key in something over here. So now it is acting as a reset button. So let's click and see how it works. See, so it has reset the input text fields. Let's try that again. Now let's go back and make this as a submit button. So we'll put it as submit. Run this. Now if I click on this button, it tries to submit. It doesn't reset. You see this? So type attribute takes submit or reset. So reset type would be rendering a reset button. By default, it is a submit button. So let's run this. So there is, since I have taken it out, it is default. So I'll run this, and you can see that it is acting as a submit button, right? Now let's use the value attribute. So we have already given the value as login. Let's change it and see how it works. Here it is, value is login. I'm changing it as sign in. Does it show sign in? Yes, here it is. So value attributes function is to display the text on the button. Now let's use the action attribute. Before using the action attribute, let's put one more XHTML page. Looks for the XHTML define. It's not there. We'll go to others, web, and XHTML. So next, got it as default. Okay. Put it as default page, and the title also put it as default page. You might be wondering as to why I'm doing this. New page. The action attribute actually allows you to navigate to another page. So in the index.html, XHTML, and the command button tag, under the attribute action, I'm going to put it as default.xhtml. So it should navigate to default.xhtml. Let's see whether it does. So on clicking this command button, it should navigate to default.xhtml. Let us see. Yes, this is sign in. Click. I'll have to key in something, right? Okay, and there is no error. It should. Now you can see that it has come to default page. So action attribute is used to navigate to another page, right? So let's summarize as to what we did in this video. We came to know that command button renders an HTML input of the type submit or reset based on the type attribute. ID attribute is used to give a unique ID. Rendered attribute takes one of the two values, true or false. False would make the command button invisible, while true makes it visible. Disabled attribute takes one of the two values, true or false. True makes the command button disabled, while false makes it enabled. Image attribute takes the image path and renders an input of the type image. Value of the title attribute is displayed as a tooltip text. If the type attribute is set to reset, a reset button is rendered, else a submit button is rendered. Value attribute takes a string, which is the text displayed on the command button. Mention the page to which you want to navigate to in the action attribute. In the next video, we will talk about messages. Bye for now.